According to studies, over 70% of salespeople miss their KPIs. In today's video, I'm going to show you one of the ways you can predict and make sure your team hits their numbers every single time. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to provide you with the tool that your team can use almost immediately. So let's get straight into it. So why do salespeople actually miss their quota? I mean, there's so many reasons, right? But you as a business owner, as a leader, as a sales manager, it's your responsibility to make sure their job is as easy as it gets. So set up automation so there's no manual entry, clean up the CRM so that it's not confusing, coach them every single day, give them feedback on the sales recordings, role play with them, make sure they're actually managing their time properly and focusing on high ROI activities, and also make sure they're talking to the right people. Now, what we're going to look at today is having the wrong expectations of what needs to be done to actually hit my number. Before I do that, why is it actually critical to forecast? I mean, you have it on the screen, but I would say mainly having clarity of what needs to be done. So let's look at closers and how to actually predict their performance. So these are the metrics you need to track: scheduled calls, live calls, offers, closes, then current performance, which is show rate, offer rate, close rate, and current cash collected for the month, right? The most common KPIs for closers are a number of units sold, which would mean closes, and cash collected. Now, what is the actual process of forecasting something like this? I would like to think of it as reverse engineering. So really understanding what you want to forecast, what you want to see, and then go from bottom to top. So we want to see how many scheduled calls we need, how many offers, live calls, closes, cash collected, and we go from bottom to top. So we will go from closes to scheduled calls. Now let's actually look at the formulas we would need. So like I said, going from bottom to top. So looking at remaining cash collected. So taking the goal minus current cash. Same thing with closes. Taking the goal of closes and minus current closes. And we have the two numbers and we can use them in the main formulas. So in order to get live calls, we have to take the remaining closes and divide it by the current close rate. Then when we look at the offers, we already have live calls, so we can just time that by a current performance, which would mean offer rate. And then we look at the main number, how much actually overall calls do we need? So since we have the shows, since we have the live calls, we can divide it by the current show rate. So in practice, it would look something like this. Let's actually look at it. So we have the current days, right? Obviously, how many working days passed, how many working days are remaining, but we have the current show rate, offer rate, close rate, number of units sold, current cash, and those are our goals, right? So as we can see, in order to hit our numbers, we need 87 calls, 65 shows, 42 offers, and 13 closes to get to 82,000 cash collected. Now you can take it a little bit step further and break it down by a day. So not only that you have the clear targets in front of you, it sets the right expectation with the sales rep, what needs to be done in order to hit their numbers. And when you have clarity, when you have a goal in mind, breaking down each and every single number will help you actually get there because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel essentially. So if your closers don't know the main numbers such as show rate, offer rate, close rate, well, that's a big problem overall, not just for forecasting. So just make sure you have actually some tracking system in place. Here's a video of how to actually go about closer performance. When you break it down by a day, it's very easy to understand what they need to accomplish each and every single day to hit the monthly target, right? But let's move on to setters. So in terms of setters, what do we actually need to track? Well, that's sets, so number of calls scheduled by the setter, live calls, number of people that showed up, closes, show rate, set to close rate, which is essentially a close rate for setters, and then cash collected. Now again, common KPIs are units sold and minimum cash collected. So once again, breaking it down from the bottom to top. So what do we need to see? We need to see how many sets are needed, how many live calls are needed, closes, current cash, etc. So we need to look at the cash, right? So taking the goal minus current, and we're taking the closes minus current. And since we get the closes, we need to divide that by the set to close rate or close rate. This gives us the amount of sets we need to actually hit the goal. And then taking the remaining sets and times that by the current show rate. So in practice, it looks like this. Now again, we have the days passed, days remaining, but mainly we have current show rate, current set to close, number of units sold, current cash, and our goal. So based on my performance, which is 82% show rate and set to close 23%, it's very easy to imagine what needs to be done, right? So it's 39 sets in order to hit my goal. And if we break it down by a day, which is over 3-week period, 3 sets a day is very realistic. Then we look at how many people actually have to show up, right? So in this case, 82% show rate is very good. And then having the clarity of how many closes we actually need. Break it down one by one and actually seeing what needs to be done. I'm going to mention it once again. If your setters don't know the numbers, such as show rate and set to close, check out the video down below and set up correct tracking for your sales team. So what are the actual benefits of using this approach? I mean, since I'm taking my own personal performance, I can get a realistic expectation of my numbers. So I get actionable steps on what to do. So how many calls, how many offers, how many closes. Then when I break it down by a day, and let's say I have 3 weeks left to hit my goal, it's very realistic to set 3 people per day. Now, by having this insight as well, you can be proactive, right? You can identify issues very early on and correct them. And lastly, it creates the accountability for each and every single member. So there are not going to be any excuses. I couldn't hit my number because. And lastly, if you want to get this calculator for your team completely free of charge, just enter an email right here and you get the link to this calculator. So this is everything from me, guys, how we can help. If you're on a high ticket offer doing over 100K a month and you want to scale using data, book a call below or check out our case studies. And thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye.